All right. So, a few days ago, my wife and I saw Black Adam. And after seeing the movie, I wanted to sit down here and just throw down my thoughts, but I needed a day or two to collect my overall impressions. And then I decided to wait a little bit longer because my son and my nephew and my daughter went and saw it last night, and we had a discussion on it. And so I was able to formulate more and more of my thoughts. So I apologize, and I have a lot of things I've recorded recently. I just haven't posted, so I'm gonna try my best to catch up on a lot of the other things I've watched over the past few weeks. I apologize. We just have a lot going on. Whole family has been sick with one issue or another. Thankfully, for the most part, I've been able to avoid it, but I've had to help out to a degree because everybody else is under the weather. So, anyway, I'll try and get as much more things thrown online. Anyway, so we go to the movie, and let me just start off here. The movie was supposed to start at 8:15, and I think we go through about 30 minutes of previews. I haven't experienced that in a long time. Is that the norm? I don't know. So it's about 8:45, and the movie starts, and people are still walking in to find their seats. And I had two issues. I'm like, one, if you're 30 minutes after the movie is supposed to start and you're that late to a movie, you might as well wait till the next showing. I mean, I don't understand coming to a movie. I mean, because if the movie started even 5 or 10 minutes after its, proposed time, you're 20, 30 minutes into the movie, and you're missing the movie. Anyway, that's just my own personal thing. Two, and I know it's become a convenient thing to do, but it's still an annoyance to everybody else. If you're trying to find your seat, don't turn your flashlight on, please. Because a lot of times while you're trying to find your seat, you're shining the light in somebody's face, and it's annoying. Alright, pet peeves aside, I know I'm supposed to talk about Black Adam. It's just, those things happen way more often than I care to experience when I go to movie theater, and with movie prices constantly increasing, I have somebody's cell phone light shining in front of my face. Anyway, I digress. Alright, moving on. So, Black Adam. Oh boy. I didn't hate it. I'll put it that way. At the same time, I didn't 100% love it, and I'll go into a little bit here without trying to post any spoilers, and hopefully, maybe later on today, I'll sit down with my son and we'll just kind of go over it a little bit more in depth, and we'll just have a spoiler conversation. We had a good conversation last night about it, and I wish I could have recorded it then, because it got quite lively. Nothing rude or anything, but we got quite in depth into it, and there was a lot of things we agreed upon, and he enjoyed it way more than I did. But anyway, I wanted to like this movie. I didn't hate it, but at the same time, I didn't enjoy it as much as I had hoped. Simply because there were just a lot of things that happened in this movie that just bothered me. From plot-wise, acting, a few moments, the way this movie was handled directed, and just the overall, it was almost like death by a thousand cuts, to where a little thing here and a little thing there just kind of nicked at me until by the time the movie was over, I was like, this movie was okay. Alright. So, bear with me. I'll go into it a little bit. So, I guess the biggest thing when it comes to these comic book movies nowadays, because we've had comic book movies for almost 20 years now, is unless you're a huge comic book unless you're a huge comic book aficionado, your general audience has a hard time differentiating between Marvel and DC. And unless you're really, really paying attention, you kind of know the main characters between the two. You know Superman is DC. You know Batman is DC. You know Spider-Man is Marvel. You know the X-Men is Marvel. With the main characters, you kind of know one universe from the other. Well, we're starting to delve into newer characters, and unfortunately, it starts to blur the lines between the two universes to the point to where it almost they almost merge into one another. And unfortunately for your general audience, it can almost be semi confusing as to which character belongs to which universe. Case in point, while my family and I were talking about Black Adam and we were talking about other comic book characters, many times a character would be brought up and we would have to stop the conversation and say, well, that character is Marvel, not DC. And, and it was like, oh, yes, you're right. Or this person is DC, not Marvel. Just a lot of times because the character would be just blurted out because we just didn't realize we were talking about a character from a different universe. And this is from people who are a little bit more ingrained into the comic book culture. My son reads the comics. He knows all the backstories and everything, and even he made the mistake several times. So I have a feeling your general audience is not that involved, and so when they see some of these characters, it's quite easy to emulate them or attach them to other already established characters. So when watching Black Adam and running into some of these characters, one of the problems I had with this movie is none of these characters were actually established in any previous sorts of work, and the movie didn't really establish them. They're just here, and it's unfortunate because we have really nothing to go on with these characters if we didn't already know them, and so we have a tendency to attach them to something else. Hawkman. Now, I did read some of the things from way back in the 80s. As far as I knew growing up, Hawkman is from another planet. I think it's Thanagar. Well, I guess his backstory has been changed so many times. He's either human or not human. I don't know. This movie just doesn't say anything. He's just here. Okay? He's here. He's leader of the JSA, something we have no idea what it is. So we hear JSA, we presume it's something like X-Men, because X-Men has been a little bit more established. It came out 20 years ago. So right there is how we can correlate what the JSA is. Hawkman, we don't know anything about this character. He's not really introduced to us. He's just here. So based off of what he's doing, he almost comes off like almost Tony Starkish. He just comes off as a rich guy who has these items. He has wings and he has a mace, or what my son says is a morning star. But I'm going to call it mace for the sake of simplicity. Well, apparently in this other country called Kandar, I'm sorry if I'm going to say it, if I say it incorrectly, we have Black Adam, who's been resurrected for, whatever reason. The country is under oppression. It's under mercenaries. And that's all I'm going to say about that. So, Hawkman, I don't think he even has a name. I don't think he even calls him Hawkman. He just, and even by saying Hawkman, I'm having a hard time not saying Hawkeye. So, I think you can see my struggle here. So Hawkman, who comes off as Tony Stark, is contacted by Amanda Waller, who we've already known from previous movies is not a person to be trusted. decides to recruit a few other people to deal with Black Adam because he's been resurrected. He takes out a few people, and now the JSA wants to stop him because Amanda Waller says so. Okay. He recruits Dr. Fate, who we absolutely know nothing about. And I'm speaking as a general audience. Dr. Fate, we know nothing about, and he comes off like Doctor Strange. He has these abilities where he sees things. Okay, so he's a Doctor Strange. He hasn't been in action for a while, but Hawkman recruits two more. Atom Smasher, who is just Ant-Man. He's just a guy who can go big. He may even go small. We don't know, but he just comes off as Ant-Man. And then he recruits some girl, and I'm sorry if it was Red Tornado, I think. I think that's her call sign. I don't know. Who can do wind. She's smart and she can do wind. Okay. And that's basically it. They're sent to go deal with Black Adam, who's brought back. That's pretty much the movie. But it's these things where you're watching the movie and I'm going, okay, I don't know these characters. I have no investment in these characters. And after 2 hours, it's just a bunch of stuff happening. And some of it's good, some of it's not. So that's all in all. And by the time the movie is over, I'm just like, okay, I don't really know how to feel here because the movie itself wasn't a contained movie. It's everybody's introduced. We don't know. We do have a backstory for Black Adam, and it's fine and whatever. But and I know what I'm saying here doesn't really tell a whole much, but that's how the movie is. I mean, this review is kind of like the movie where just things are going on and like, okay, well, how do you feel? Well, this is kind of how I feel. It's there. So anyway. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to have a stronger review spoiler later, hopefully. But that's all in all how I feel. It's and there's a mineral called Eternium. What does it do? We don't know. What's the point of it? We don't know. It just can do something. So that all in all is how I feel. I didn't realize I'm already 13 minutes into this review. So that's the plot. And it, like I said, it goes more, but I'm not going to spoil it for you. Go see it by all means. But I'm going to go over a few other things where this is where the movie itself kind of took itself out for me. And hopefully I'll get this done before the 20-minute mark. This movie had its share of inconsistencies where it's one of those things that kind of sticks in the back of your mind. You know, something that could easily be handled, but for some reason they didn't. And like I said, I'm not going to go too spoiler, but these two things I can address. And first, Black Adam, this country of Kundar is somewhere Middle Eastern, Egypt, whatever. And we see a flashback and everybody's speaking, I presume, Arabic or Egyptian. I wasn't familiar with the language. So when Black Adam is introduced, he's speaking that language. Makes perfect sense. Well, give it a few minutes. He's speaking English for whatever reason. I understand this movie's made for English-speaking audiences. So, you know, it doesn't do us any favors to watch subtitles for, you know, the remainder of the movie. But the character just instantly learns English by no reason whatsoever. It's things like that just kind of just irks me. He could have taken a few moments for him to, I don't know, learn it, understand it. I don't know. He's magic. Have him touch a dictionary and he just absorbs it. Boom, he learns English. But here he just, I know how to talk English now. Another thing was Hawkman's weapon. Like I said, it's technically a Morning Star. I'm gonna call it a mace just because it's easier to say. But this weapon can change at a whim. I presume Hawkman thinks it, and the weapon changes, or maybe there's some type of secret button and it can change on the fly. Because later, it turns from a mace into an axe, and he's fighting with the axe, and all that's all fine and dandy. But towards the end of the movie, I could have sworn, and my son will say otherwise, I could have sworn where Hawkman was holding the mace and it was in mace form. We cut away to Black Adam or whoever, and then when we cut back to Hawkman, it's now an axe. And then we cut away again, only for it to come back, and it's a mace again. And it was one of those things where I'm like, wait, what happened here? Did I miss something? I don't know. And it just gave me the feeling, because, these movies have so many VFX companies working on it. It almost gave me the feeling like one company was given the direction that he was holding the mace, and another company was told he was holding the axe. And once they put it all together, you just kind of had this kind of a inconsistency. It reminded me of a lot of in Spider-Man No Way Home, where that scene where we meet Dr. Octopus for the first time, and he has Spider-Man holding him under the bridge upside down, and he rips off part of the Spider-Man nano suit. And we see, that it's ripped and damaged. Well, later on, in the scene later, like maybe a minute or so later, the spider suit's completely intact, right? But then a few seconds later, when they're on top of the bridge, the spider suit's ripped again. And it's like, okay, we're dealing with a level of inconsistencies. It's one of those things where, for me, when I see it, I can't unsee it, because it leaves me confused and I'm a little bit lost. As far as the direction goes, the movie's actually pretty to watch. The scenes are nice and colorful. It wasn't bland like Man of Steel. It wasn't too dark. And in some scenes, everything was nice, well lit. Very enjoyable to watch to the eye, very pleasing to the eye. The only thing I had was in a lot of the action scenes, and it seemed like it got to the point of overuse. And this was the use of slow motion, where Black Adam is fighting, and it just turns into a slow motion scene where if you've watched either 300 or if you've played any of the Injustice games, where when they use their super move at the end, where they start doing action scene, it goes into slow motion, then back into fast action, then to slow motion. This movie does it over and over and over, to the point where probably by the end of the movie I was kind of done with it, and I had asked myself, I'm like, did the director or the editor just find this option for the first time and just you know what we need here? We need a slow mo. Yeah, go ahead, do that again. It was quite it got quite used, I'll put it that way. Other than that, the direction was fine. The acting was alright. Probably my two biggest things with that was the kid in this movie. I didn't really like him all that much. I found him to be kind of annoying, and there's a moment where he tries to rally the people, and I'm sorry, he couldn't pull it off. And granted, he's a kid, so it just didn't do it for me there. Probably the biggest disappointment in this movie was Dwayne Johnson. I've watched him for over 20 years. as The Rock in WWE. I've watched him, in just about all of his movies, most of his movies anyway. The guy has personality upon personality. Well, in this movie, and I understand Black Adam is supposed to be a anti-hero, evil guy or whatever. Well, we got none of that. All we got was something one note, no personality, very little inflection whatsoever. In the flashback scenes, it was fine, but as Black Adam, it came off one note, and in all honesty, it came off boring. I would have preferred if he had shown maybe a little bit of emotion as Black Adam, maybe a little bit of softness towards the mother and the kid in the present time, something or anything. It just didn't do it for me. And I think that's probably one of the biggest disappointments, because, as I said, over the years watching Dwayne Johnson, you kind of get used to seeing some level of his personality and his characters, and here we got absolutely none of it. And I would almost say, I don't know, even if he was supposed to be evil, show us evil, but what we got was just nothing, and I found that to be disappointing. It was just boring. That being said, I know I'm coming off exceptionally negative about this movie, but I want to say I didn't hate it, and I want to make sure I come off that way. I didn't hate the movie. In fact, if I were to give it a grade, I'd just give it a solid C. I'd watch it again, when it comes out on HBO Max or whatever streaming service. I will watch it again. In fact, so much, after talking with my son about it, I might go see it again in the theaters. I don't know. But I didn't hate the movie. But at the same time, I didn't love it. And I just want to give that out there. I just give it a solid C. As far as comic book movies for the year of 2022, I found this movie actually better than Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness and Thor: Love and Thunder. So I just want to put that in perspective. I found those other two movies just to be absolutely unwatchable after experiencing those. I'd have a hard time watching those again. In fact, those are on Disney Plus. I have not taken any time to watch those again. Black Adam, I would watch again. It's just, there was a lot more I think they could have done here. And the things that they didn't do, I just found annoying. So, all in all, that's my review on Black Adam. I didn't realize I was going to end up going over 20 minutes, but I just wanted to give my thoughts on Black Adam and the reasons why. It wasn't a bad movie, but it wasn't a good one either. It was just mid. And anyway, that's all I got to say about that. All in all, what did you guys think of Black Adam? Did you have a chance to go see it? Let me know. Post it in the comments below. If you like what I had to say, you can always hit that thumbs up button. And if you want to hear more of what I have to say when it comes to television, movie, video games, like I said, I'm going to try and post a lot over the next few days. I have a lot in the hopper here. And hopefully, everybody in my house can start feeling better so I don't have to tend to them. But it's all part of the job. Anyway, thanks so much for listening, and I'll talk to you guys next time.